We are joined today by country music legend Bill Anderson, who is going to be making his way to Alberta coming up next week, as a matter of fact. There's 3 dates. 2 of them just happen to be in Edmonton over at the Century Casino, and then the other on September 23rd in Lloydminster. Whispering Bill Anderson, a pleasure to talk to you today.
Well, great talking to you, Wally. We're looking forward to coming up. Tell me what the weather is so I'll know what to pack. I never know when I come up your way.
Well, it's always unpredictable here. One minute it could be, sunshine and warm, and then it could be raining like it is today.
Oh, golly. Well, yeah, I've been there when it would go from being nice and warm to being good and cold. So I was just wondering, we've got a beautiful day in Nashville today.
Bill, I do have to say I did get a chance to see you in concert a couple of times when you were up here. And the last time, I think it goes back to 2003 when you were touring with Kitty Wells and Johnny Wright, along with Gene Shepard and George Hamilton IV. And, 3 of those artists are no longer with us anymore. But, you look back at your career and you've had the opportunity to travel and, be out there on the road with some fine artists.
Well, I really have. In fact, I was thinking not long ago about the first time I ever came to Edmonton. Of course, that was probably before you were born. But I came there with George Jones and Webb Pierce and Alonzo and Oscar and so many people that, have passed on. And the thing we have to try to remember is just to make the most of every day and spend as much time with these wonderful people as we possibly can when we get the opportunity, and then just cherish their memories when they're gone. I remember that trip with Kitty and Johnny and George and Gene. It was a marvelous trip in most ways. I had to duck out for a couple of days because my father passed away during that time, and then I came back and rejoined the group in Edmonton. But we always look forward to coming up to Alberta. The folks up there have been so good to me all these years, and still remember a lot of the old songs, so it's fun to dust them off and play them again.
When it comes to some of those songs, a lot of these songs are your very own compositions that you have written. Songwriting has been very good to you.
Yes, it has. It's been a very big part of my life. And on our live shows, like for somebody that may not have seen us since back in 2003, we do a big segment on the show devoted to the songwriting because, number one, I find out that there is a universal fascination with songwriting. I think everybody at one time or another in their life tries to write a song. And some of us have been very fortunate and been successful at it, and it's fun to kind of pass along the stories, and I find that the people enjoy listening to that. So our show is kind of a singer-songwriter type show, and if the people are interested in songs and songwriting and the process, we give them a good dose of that on our stage shows these days.
Well, Bill, you go back and you look at some of the songs that you have written still. Once a Day, Mama Sang a Song. I mean, people are going to be familiar with these songs that you've written, but then you fast forward to just a few short years ago. I mean, there is some songs that artists had went on to have big hits with that you were part of with the songwriting process. Well, you go back to Whiskey Lullaby from Brad Paisley and Alison Krauss. I mean, that's just one of an example of the other great songs that you've written, and probably one of my faves from George Strait, Give It Away.
Well, thank you. Yeah, those were both very good to me back in the 2000s. A Whiskey Lullaby 2005 and Give It Away 2007. Both of them voted the Song of the Year. So that made an old man like me feel pretty good, and keeps me out there hustling. I'm still writing songs and hoping to have a few more hits before my time's up.
And it doesn't end there as a songwriter. I've talked to other songwriters before, and, they said there's always something that's brewing inside their head. I mean, it just, comes from everyday stuff. They might see something that just might trigger an idea.
Well, that's very true. You just kind of look at the world as one big song. I guess if I were a painter or a visual artist, I would look at a sunset and I'd pull out my pink paint and my yellow paint and my blue paint and try to paint the picture. But being a songwriter, I just try to pull out the words and describe it the only way that I know how. And I think once that you're geared like that, you're kind of built like that, and you're songwriter's antenna is up, and it's always kind of flopping around looking for ideas. I don't think there's any way you could stop it, even if you tried.
Whispering Bill Anderson is joining us on the program here today. And Bill, I do have to say you've got a great new CD that is out, which is a gospel CD. God is Great, God is Good, featuring, over 40 gospel favorites.
Well, I find, and I have found over the years, Wally, that the people who enjoy country, they enjoy the gospel songs, and that's always been a big part of my life and my career. I've told the story many years of how my grandfather was a minister, and he influenced me with that kind of music. And the first songs I ever sang were songs that I sang in church and Sunday school and things. So I always try to include, at least a gospel song or a couple of gospel-flavored songs on my show. And this double CD is a collection of all the gospel recordings I've done over the years. I didn't realize until we started putting this double CD together just how many gospel songs I had recorded, but it was well over 50.
There's a story that just recently came down that I had a chance to read about, and what a fascinating story that is. And it's goes back to a guitar that you've had gone missing many years ago.
Yes, it was a guitar made for me by Billy Grammer, Grand Ole Opry star, who started a guitar company back in the 60s. And when he first got it going, they were called Grammer guitars, and he gave me one, and he gave Porto Wagner one, and he gave several of us at the Opry free guitars to kind of help him publicize his company and get it off the ground. And I played that guitar everywhere I went for a good 5, 6, 7 years, and one day it just disappeared. I don't know where it went. Don't know how it got out of my sight and out of my control, but that guitar was gone from my sight and my presence for right at 50 years, between 45 and 50 years. And to make a long story short, the guitar was found in a pawn shop in Phoenix, Arizona, and the owner of the pawn shop got it back to me, and I'll be bringing it to Edmonton and Lloydminster when we come up there. And the guitar is more popular than I am right now. People are wanting to take more pictures of the guitar than they are of me.
Well, it's just a fascinating story.
It's a wonderfully kind thing that this man did. He could have kept that guitar. He could have sold it for probably a good bit of money. But he was just absolutely wonderful about it, and I owe him a whole lot. It's been a real joy to have that guitar back.
Wow, just to have that, to be reunited with it, because it's something that obviously is near and dear to you, and it holds a lot of special memories.
It does, and beyond that, I sat there with it and tried to piece the songs and the years together, and I wrote some hit songs on that guitar, because in those days I was writing and playing, pretty much on the same guitar all the time. I didn't have a closet full of them, and so I've tried to go back and try to figure what songs I might have written on that guitar. And during the show, I'm going to tell the story about the guitar, a little more detail, and bring it with me and play some of those songs, that I think may have been written on that guitar.
Well, folks are going to have to go out to the show to hear the complete story on that. Whispering Bill Anderson is joining us on the program today. The Grand Old Opry. This is, something that you've been part of for many, many years. And you still get up each and every day, and you get out there on the road, and then when need be, you're there at the Opry. How does it feel after all these years to still get out there on the Opry stage and to perform for the fans and to be a member of the Grand Ole Opry?
Well, there's no place quite like the Grand Ole Opry, whether we're at the Opry House or back down as we do it during the wintertime at the old Ryman Auditorium in downtown Nashville. You can play on all the stages in the world, and none of them quite measure up to being able to play on the stage at the Opry and to be a member of the Opry and a part of the Opry family. The music has changed through the years. The cast of characters has changed, but I don't think the character has changed. And I think who love it and treasure it like I do, we want to help preserve that heritage. And although the music changes and maybe veers away a little bit from what it used to be years ago, It's still the Opry. It's been going for 90 years now, and there's nothing quite like it. Well, that's kind of what I try to provide. There's not a lot of us still out touring whose roots run quite as deep as mine do, because I go back to the late 1950s when I first got started, and of course, as a country music fan, I go back even farther than that. So, I mean, we don't try to, we're not there to necessarily educate the people. We're there to entertain the people, but we throw in some things along the way that I think maybe are little spots of history that they enjoy, and we cut up and try to them. I know a bunch of jokes that I'll probably pull out and dust off and try out on the crowd up there. So the fans in Alberta have always treated us so great, and they've laughed in all the right places and applauded in all the right places, and so it's always fun to come back and visit with old friends and hopefully make some new ones.
Whispering Bill Anderson, we're really looking forward to your show here in Alberta. Well, it is a pleasure to speak to you for the very first time. And, you know, if folks can't make it on down, there's always the Grand Old Opry that they could tune into, catch your performance there.
Sure. Well, we'll look forward to seeing them in any place that we get the chance to come face to face, be it up there or down here. And I appreciate your time today, Wally. Good talking to you, and I hope to see you while we're up there.